Very good afternoon. A very good afternoon, early evening, and thank you, Aisha, for that generous. I'm repeatedly being muted by the host, so could you please just sort that out?
Yes.
Yeah, do I go ahead?
Yes, please.
So very good afternoon, evening to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us on Saturday evening. And let me begin at the very outset by thanking Action for Autism for inviting me to give this particular talk. And I'm very flattered actually, and a little embarrassed also, because I'm supposed to be speaking on my parenting experiences. And I've been told that the idea behind this talk is so that young parents, newly diagnosed, parents of newly diagnosed children may get a better sense of how to manage neurotypical as well as neurodivergent children, and to basically manage family life, or to manage the different challenges that parenting children with different needs throws up. So I think it's quite clear that parenting is a challenging business. Parenting a child with special needs is also a challenging business. Single parenting a child is a challenging business, and I've had to wear all three hats. But the thing is that it's also been an extremely joyful experience. I've had the greatest joy and the greatest of happiness in parenting these two very different and yet very similar children. I'll just introduce the two of them. My older boy, Vibhu, is 27 right now. He's a neurotypical youngster, presently pursuing his PhD in economics at the University of British Columbia in Canada. My younger child, Vishu, is 25. He's an intern with Aadhaar Vocational Center at Action for Autism. He's pursuing a very different kind of a pathway. However, despite the differences that characterize their life experiences, there have been many, many commonalities. And I think the challenges of parenting two children who have had different developmental trajectories has been something of a learning experience for me, because it has taught me how similar we are, despite the fact that we may be so different. So that's something that I'd just like to sort of, discuss a little bit. And I feel a little self-conscious actually talking about my own parenting, because I just hope this doesn't end up being a very self-indulgent exercise, talking exclusively about my family and my children and my circumstances. But what I do want to do is actually throw some or draw some points, some common points, which all of us as parents of neurotypical and neurodivergent children or youngsters can really draw in terms of parenting in today's world. The world we live in is very, very different from, the world as it existed a generation ago. Most of us who are living in the, urban spaces, we are completely disconnected from our roots. Many of us are migrants. Many of us are connected with our families only nowadays through social media or through the telephone. Many of us have really not been home. So the homes that we have created are these homes which are away from the places we were born, the places we were brought up. And I think I want to expand this idea of home a little bit. घर आखिर क्या है? Home क्या है? क्या home वही जगह है जहां आप पैदा हुए, जहां आप बड़े हुए, या home वो है जहां पे आपने शादी करी या आपने परिवार स्थापित किया? कि home और family क्या वो उन लोगों को कॉन्स्टिट्यूट करता है जिनके एक्सपीरियंसेस, जिनका मतलब लाइफ या जिनके जीवन के अनुभव आपके अनुभवों से मिलते जुलते हैं, एंड एक तरह से व्हाट वी कैन कॉल अ किनशिप ऑफ शेयर्ड एक्सपीरियंसेस. For instance, all of us who are parents of children with autism or other developmental disabilities, जब हमें कोई तकलीफ होती है, जब हमें किसी चीज की जरूरत होती है, तो हमारी टेंडेंसी है एक दूसरे को अप्रोच करना. तो एक तरह से हमारा जो एक परिवार बन गया है हमारे कॉमन सर्कमस्टांसेस से, इस तरह का परिवार क्या आज के दौर में या आज के समाज में इस तरह के परिवार की क्या अहमियत है, और उस तरह का परिवार हमें कितना सपोर्ट करता है, इससे हम कितनी अपनी ताकत डिराइव कर सकते हैं. मैं इस बारे में भी थोड़ा सा बोलूंगी. तो सबसे पहले जैसे मैंने बताया, मेरे 2 बच्चे हैं, 2 लड़के हैं। बड़ा बेटा मेरा न्यूरोटिपिकल है और उसके न्यूरोटिपिकल होने से ही हमारे छोटे बेटे का डायग्नोसिस मैं समझती हूँ जल्दी हो गया, क्योंकि अक्सर ये होता है कि जब एक बच्चा डेवलप होता है, उसका अगर फिजिकल माइलस्टोन्स विद इन द नॉर्मल रेंज होते हैं, ऑटिज्म को पकड़ना या ऑटिज्म को पहचानना कई बार बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है। लेकिन हम लोगों के लिए ऐसी प्रॉब्लम नहीं आई बिकॉज वी हैड सीन आवर neurotypical son developing, and there is only a 2.5 years age difference between the two of them. So we could very immediately see ki what was happening with Vishu was actually rather different from what happened with Vibhu, our older one. And this led us to the doors of several pediatricians and other doctors, and ultimately led us to the doors of Action for Autism, where Vishu got a diagnosis, where he got an evaluation at the age of 3. And once he was evaluated, I think our entire life's journey, in a sense, began at the doors of Action for Autism in the year 2000, when on a hot summer's day, I still remember that day, I came with this little squirmy child clutched onto my chest, changing 2 or 3 buses. And I landed up at Chirag, Delhi, and where I met the one and only Mary Barua, who was extremely empathetic, who, in a sense, welcomed us into the world of autism rather than, as I have heard many parents say, autism was not hurled like an atom bomb at them, which then exploded into their lives and caused all kinds of destruction. So we were welcomed into the world of autism with a great deal of warmth, with a great deal of empathy. And I think that, in a sense, set the tone for the way we led our lives in the future and continue to lead our lives to this very day. Having a child with special needs who is not very much younger than the child who is neurotypical. I had 2 youngsters, 2 little boys, both very naughty, both very active, both of them absolutely a barrel of monkeys. And handling them, managing them, if one would run away, the other would get into some kind of trouble. So it was like a typical household where there are 2 very, very naughty youngsters. One of the really defining events in the life of my family took place in the year 2003, when my husband passed away very young. He died of a massive heart attack. He was only 39. The children at that point were 8 years old and 6 years old. And that was really the atom bomb, if you like, because all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation with 2 very little children, a very uncertain future, the fact that you have to work. I did not have the luxury of withdrawing from work because I was the only breadwinner, and a very uncertain kind of a pathway ahead. One really did not know where life was going to take us. But this is what I would like to really emphasize, that one of the things that has really seen us through, or that has really been of immense support to us, is the network of family, friends, co-workers, and other families of persons with autism. I think I can't emphasize this enough कि जो आप एक support network आपके इर्द गिर्द अपने इर्द गिर्द बनाते हो, वो कितना अहम होता है जिंदगी की हर कठिनाई या जिंदगी के हर तजुर्बे के साथ डील करने में, चाहे वो नेटवर्क आपके कोवर्कर्स का हो, चाहे वो नेटवर्क आपके परिवार का हो. एंड टू मेक दिस नेटवर्क स्ट्रॉन्ग, इस नेटवर्क को रियली सुदृढ़ बनाने के लिए सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट चीज होती है एक्सेप्टेंस. That acceptance begins at home. Like charity begins at home, acceptance begins at home. Without acceptance happening at home, without the family, without the parents accepting the child with special needs, or accepting that a different or a atypically developing child is not an abnormal child, is not a curse, is not a problem, is not a disaster, right? Accepting that person with joy, accepting that person with respect is the first step ultimately in how your life is really going to unfold and how the world is going to also treat you. So right from the get-go, and I think these were lessons that we really learned at AFA, acceptance, and also the fact that ये जो बच्चा है, ये इसको accept करने से आप कोई इसके ऊपर एहसान नहीं कर रहे हो. वो एक human being है, उसके अपने rights है, उसके अपने अधिकार है. आप कोई उसके साथ एहसान या कोई चैरिटी नहीं कर रहे, ये इसका हक है. और इसका हक है न सिर्फ परिवार में कि वो स्टेबल रहे, बट इट इज द ड्यूटी ऑफ सोसाइटी, समाज का भी एक दायित्व है, या समाज का भी समाज की भी एक बहुत बड़ी जिम्मेदारी है कि जो व्यक्ति जिन्हें किसी तरह की डिफिकल्टी हो या किसी तरह की वल्नरेबिलिटी हो, समाज का ये कर्तव्य है कि वो भी इन लोगों को एक डिग्निफाइड लाइफ और एक फुलफिलिंग लाइफ जीने का पूरा पूरा अवसर दे. तो armed with these 2 or 3 basic fundas, that my child is not anybody's burden, my child has every right to live as good and as happy a life as anybody else's child, and that ultimately both my children, even though one may be called neurotypical and one may be called neurodivergent, at the end of the day they are both my children. They are both my children, and they both are deserving of equal opportunities, equal love, and an upbringing which really helps both of them to flourish and flower. So as a parent, with a full-time job, with 2 young children, one of whom has special needs, life, when I look back, I mean, when I was asked to do this talk, I was actually looking back at the years, and it is amazing how the years seem to have just galloped past without our even realizing it. It gives me quite a start to realize that these 2 little fellows, and I'll share some photographs at the end of the session, these 2 little fellows are now grown-up men. So life waits for nobody. Today's children are, tomorrow's adults, and that happens so quickly. So I think the important thing to really bear in mind is that each day must be lived to its fullest. I don't think any of us have times for regret, times for, we don't have the luxury of really having regret or having any kind of feelings of, oh, I did not do this, I was not able to do this, I was not able to fulfill this responsibility. I think we just need to lead our lives, just, take life on. I think that song in the, that famous Hindi song, which I think I use as my मूल मंत्र, मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाता चला गया. तो, I mean, जिंदगी का साथ हमें निभाते चले जाना चाहिए. I think this is something which, my children have really taught me. In fact, when, Nidhi asked me, what would you suggest as a title for this talk? My suggestion was Bringing Up Mother, because I think it is, we are parents because our children have made us parents, right? I mean, that seems a very silly and obvious thing to say, but I think it's really, when you reflect upon it, so much of what we are as parents is shaped by our receptivity towards our children, and our children teach us such important lessons in life. I've always found it very uncomfortable when people say, एक बच्चा एक कच्ची मिट्टी होता है, उसको, एक mold करके उसको एक बर्तन, all those things, that we adults are the ones who are molding children. That idea has always made me very uncomfortable. I think that बच्चों के अंदर भी एक एजेंसी होती है, बच्चों के अंदर भी एक इच्छा होती है, बच्चों के अंदर भी उनकी अपनी एक पर्सपेक्टिव और उनकी अपनी एक पर्सनालिटी होती है. Yes, जो डेवलप होती है, और उसके साथ साथ हम भी बदलते रहते हैं. तो परिवार कभी एक स्टैटिक सिस्टम नहीं होता है, परिवार हमेशा डायनामिक होता है, परिवार में हमेशा कुछ ना कुछ बदलता रहता है, कुछ ना कुछ जुड़ता रहता है, लोग जुड़ते रहते हैं, संबंध जुड़ते रहते हैं, अनुभव जुड़ते रहते हैं. तो इसीलिए जो एक वाइब्रेंसी होती है, एक डायनामिज्म होता है परिवार में, उसी फ्लो में आई थिंक हम पेरेंट्स भी ढलते हैं, हम पेरेंट्स भी बनते हैं, हम पेरेंट्स की पर्सपेक्टिव भी शेप होती है. So I think this is something that these past 25 years or so have, I think, really taught me. Coming a little bit to, to speak specifically about some aspects of their childhood, I think it's all of us, we know that when we live in a society like ours, in a society like ours, where the family is given such importance. अगर आप ज्यादातर वेस्टर्न लिटरेचर अगर सिबलिंग्स के बारे में पढ़ोगे तो वहां मोस्टली सिबलिंग राइवलरी के बारे में बात होती है. Yes, ma'am. But in South Asia, you have a very different perspective on what siblinghood looks like. Here, siblings have actually culturally a much deeper kind of a role to play in each other's lives. अगर आप हमारे customs देखेंगे, आप देखो कि मामा का क्या रोल होता है शादियों में, भाई का क्या रोल होता है किसी customs में. तो एक जो हमारी एक एक सांस्कृतिक हमारा जो धरोहर है, उसमें सिबलिंग्स का रोल जो है वो बहुत डिफरेंट है फ्रॉम द टिपिकल सिबलिंग राइवलरी पर्सपेक्टिव जो हम वेस्टर्न लिटरेचर में देखते हैं। तो आई थिंक इस रोल को निभाते हुए या इस रोल को समझते हुए जो हमारे बच्चे हैं, जो हमारे मतलब जो सिबलिंग्स हैं, उनके साथ जो डेवलपमेंटली डिसेबल्ड बच्चे का संबंध है, रिलेशनशिप है, उसे भी हमें देखना चाहिए। और अक्सर ये देखा जाता है कि अगर आपके पास एक बच्चा है जैसे डेवलपमेंटल डिसेबिलिटी है, कोई भी डिसेबिलिटी होती है, आपको बहुत सलाह मिलती है कि आपको जरूर एक दूसरा बच्चा पैदा करना चाहिए, आपको एक समझदार, इन इन्वर्टेड कॉमर्स, समझदार बच्चे की सख्त आवश्यकता है। अब ये जो समझदारी का जो बोझ है, जो उस सो कॉल्ड समझदार बच्चे के कंधों पे हम डाल देते हैं, ये कभी कभी बहुत प्रॉब्लमैटिक होता है। तो आई थिंक राइट फ्रॉम द बिगिनिंग वी एज अ फैमिली वेरी वेरी कॉन्शियस कि हमें ये बोझ उस बच्चे पे नहीं डालना है जो न्यूरोटिपिकल है, कि तुम समझदार हो, तुम्हारा काम है उसको संभालना, तुम्हारा काम है उसको sort of take him ahead in life. हालांकि it would have been very easy to slip into that because like I just mentioned, I lost my husband very early. It would have been the easiest thing in the world to allow that burden to slip onto the shoulders of my older son. But I think that is where I really very very consciously held myself in check and tried very hard never to allow him to feel that he was in some way, his childhood in some way was compromised, or his childhood in some way would suffer because of the loss of a parent. I think one of the reasons for this was that I too lost a parent at exactly the same age that he did. So, and being an older sibling myself, I think I was in exactly the same position a generation earlier. So probably I did understand some of the pressures that were likely to fall on him and tried very consciously to resist this. To what extent I've been successful, I don't know. Just last night, I spoke to my older son. I said, look, I'm doing this talk. Ab tum zara batana, I mean, I will talk about parenting, lekin tumko jhelni padi hai meri parenting, to tum zara mujhe thoda sa feedback de dena, thode se tips de dena कि मुझे क्या बात करनी है. तो उसने एक बड़ी दिलचस्प चीज बोली. उसने कहा, एंड ही इज स्टडीइंग इकोनॉमिक्स, तो उसने बड़े इकोनॉमिक लैंग्वेज में एनालिसिस करके मुझे दिया. उसने कहा कि द कॉस्ट ऑफ अ सिबलिंग हु इज डिफरेंट कैन बी वेरी हाई, right? It can cause a lot of psychological damage, but if somehow the compensations are folded in, if you're made aware of the fact that this is not a raw deal, that there are some very good profits also involved in this in this whole deal, that enables us so-called regular siblings to cope with the existence of a disabled sibling much better. And in fact, he shared with me, my younger son has a very interesting, I think many children with autism have it. He has a calendrical, memory. If you give him a day and a date, if you give him a date, he will be able to tell you the day. And so his older brother used to use this to show him off. Tumko pata, I used to tell his, playmates, my brother has this ability. My brother can do this. And this earned him a lot of, brownie points, that you have this brother who's this sort of little calculator. Of course, I mean, this I'm saying on a lighter way, there are many children who've got very serious support needs, who may have a lot of difficulties. But for the sibling, I think it is very, very important that we as parents never really, depict or construct the disabled child as somebody who is a burden, somebody who is a booj, somebody who is we just have to take along, somebody who is, a potential recipient of care. I think it is very important right from the get-go to emphasize that the sibling with disability is first and last your sibling. And the joy that can be derived out of a sibling bond is something that we as parents have to very, very consciously promote, very, very consciously inculcate in the developing sibling. Because of our family situation, there was just one mother and two children. तो हम जहां भी जाते थे, हम तीनों साथ जाते थे. There was no question कि कोई हम तीनों में से एक कोई घर में रहेगा. अगर किसी शादी में जाना था, तो या तो तीनों, it's a package deal. Either it's all three of us or it's none of us. because of this, maybe this almost, there was a kind of a forceful inclusion, if you like. Maybe if I'd had a joint family where I could have left, either of them or both of them, maybe I would have done that. But I didn't have that option. So मैं जहाँ पे भी जाती थी, वो दोनों मेरे साथ चलते थे. In fact, in my office, it was a joke, that Shubhangi is a file, is an email with two attachments. File 1 and file 2. So those two files would always, be tagged to me wherever I went. So in this way, what actually happened was that we managed to really create a network of acquaintances, of friends, of co-workers who had to accept all three of us. So you took us all or you didn't take us at all. And because of that, we have a very, very strong and very, very vibrant network of people who care about all of us. So for them, so my friends are also my children's friends are my friends. And of course, my autism community is the common bond that all of us share. So I think that even in an urban situation, जहाँ पे आप अकेले हो, आपका joint family नहीं है, आपके रिश्तेदार नहीं है, आपका support system नहीं है, लेकिन बहुत जरूरी है कि आप अपना support system बनाएं, because ultimately यही support system है जो आपको हिम्मत भी देगा, आपको ताकत भी देगा, and most of all आपको joy भी देगा. तो आप ये नहीं कि आपकी social life को मतलब जिस तरह से आप जीना चाहते आप बाधाएं लगाएं, आप जाओगे, आप घूमोगे, you will have a good time. And I think it is what we have always done is we've had a great time. हम लोग बहुत अपने आप को enjoy करते हैं. We go out for parties, we go out for movies. Both my boys are foodies, so that helps. So this kind of social life that the three of us lead, and we have a kind of a very facilitative network that helps us to live life. Once again, I'll come back to the role that AFA has played in all of this. I think AFA used to have a Christmas party. I mean, I think that's come to a bit of a halt because of the pandemic. But that Christmas party was actually a place where both my children and myself made so many friends. Most of these people were families like ourselves, families of young people with autism. But also that Christmas party would be a place where the entire family was welcome. So it's not just that it was a place where, the autistic child was welcome. It was a place where the entire family could be there. And as many siblings have shared with me, it was the one place where they did not have to constantly look out for their autistic sibling. I think it's so important to provide these kinds of opportunities. Otherwise, अगर आप किसी birthday party में जाते हो, you're going to a birthday party in your housing society, or you're going to a family function, somewhere down the line, there is always, everyone is on red alert as to what the autistic person is going to do. वो कहाँ भाग जाएगा, किस गाड़ी के नीचे वो घुसेगा. And my younger one used to do this a lot. He was a famed runaway. He has run and run and run with, I think, the entire family, sometimes the entire organization chasing after him. There have been some memorable incidents, related with his running away. He stopped running when he was about 9. So for those families who have got runners at home, do derive hope that, this behavior does in many cases settle down on its own as the child grows up. So he was a notorious runner, but the elder sibling had to invariably be there to catch him, to find him, because fat old mother can't run as fast as a nimble young 9-year-old or 10-year-old, right? So one of the important duties my older son was always on was chasing and catching duty. So that could be very stressful, that could be very difficult. But in spaces where the entire family can participate along with the person with autism, these are spaces which are as important for the non-autistic sibling as they are for the person with autism himself or herself. Another thing that I really would like to talk about is, when we speak about, my whole experience of raising these two persons, these two distinct individuals, these two unique individuals, उनका भले ही जिंदगी का path बड़ा divergent था, but जो commonalities थे, जो उनको बांधने में बहुत important थे, I think those were more important than their divergent paths. So my elder one went through the usual, upper middle class Delhi, or the Bombay route of you go to a good school, then you go to a good college, then you go to an even better, place of higher education. You get a job in a good place. So he went through all those milestones. Vishu continued to be in the special school where he entered at the age of 4, and he transitioned through the school, and now he's working as an intern, but he is with AFA. So AFA has been a kind of a constant feature in his life, whereas for the other child, it has been a variety of experiences. So at times one does feel that, you may feel a twinge of regret that perhaps, how wonderful it would have been if the person with autism had had the kind of variety of rich experiences that the older sibling would have had. But then for a person with autism, stability, routine, people who understand him, people who appreciate him for what he is, that kind of an atmosphere is also very, very important. So one of the things that Vishu has not had to go through have been, transiting into different situations where he has not been accepted. He has generally been surrounded by acceptance right from the time he was a very, very little child. And I think that has helped him greatly in terms of, becoming the very self-confident youngster that he is today. Speaking a little bit about adulthood, I think this is really where I'm leading up to. When children become adults, adulthood basically means so many things. Adulthood means marriage, sexuality, right? A future which is apart from the family that you're born in. Whereas persons with a developmental disability, I think the omnipresent question that all of us as parents keep asking is, what is going to happen to this person when I'm no longer there? And almost inevitably, the answer, if there is a sibling, is, oh, the sibling will take care, right? But I don't know whether that is a valid or that is a very fair kind of an answer anymore. Because the kind of world we live in, the globalized world we live in, a world where the job market is so difficult, a world where it has become so hard now for young people to actually carve out a life. I think in this kind of a world, we really have to think much more realistically about what kind of expectations we have of our non-disabled children, as well as of what expectations we can continue to have and should have. Right? So I think it would be very, many people say, oh, I expect nothing of my, regularly developing sibling. I say, I most certainly expect a lot of him. I do. I would be a liar if I said that I didn't. But what I also hope, those values have been instilled in him through his upbringing and training. And I also have expectations of my of my son with autism. I have a lot of expectations of him too. I have expectations that the training, that the kind of care that he has received throughout his life is something that will help him to become an independent person, that will enable him to take care of his own needs as well as take care of others. And I'd just like to share that the last 2 years have been really an education for me. The last 2 years, I think, where the whole world has turned upside down. I've been muted. Am I unmuted now? I think for a moment my mic went off.
We can hear you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so like I said, the last 2 years have been a revelation for all of us. I think the world has turned upside down for most of us. Things that we have taken for granted, we cannot take for granted anymore. The things that we have really trained our children to do are things we now tell them they can't do. So for instance, for me, training Vishu or helping Vishu to achieve a measure of independence in terms of traveling by the metro, going independently from one place to another, meeting with people, interacting with people, all that one has striven over the years to help him achieve. The pandemic comes and you tell him, नहीं, किसी से हाथ नहीं मिलाना है, लोगों से दूर होके खड़े होके बात करनी है, मेट्रो में नहीं जाना है, सेंटर नहीं जाना है, बाहर नहीं जाना है, घर में बैठना है. वो सारी चीजें जो हम जिंदगी भर कोशिश कर रहे थे कि वो न करे। अब ये सारा मतलब सारी बाजी मतलब एक तरह से उल्टी हो गई है और हम उनको वही कह रहे हैं कि आपको ये नहीं करना है जो हम जिंदगी भर उनको सिखा रहे हैं कि आपको करना है। एंड दैट हैज बीन समथिंग व्हिच आई थिंक I would rationally have expected कि persons with autism इन सारे बंदिशों से या इन सारे जो कोविड रिस्ट्रिक्शन से उनको बहुत ज्यादा मुश्किल होगी, वो किस तरह से कोप करेंगे। लेकिन मेरे लिए ये एक रेवलेशन रहा है कि किस तरह से विशु ने एक्चुअली कोप किया है। नॉट जस्ट विशु जैसे बहुत सारे बच्चों ने, बहुत सारे ऑटिस्टिक बच्चों ने किस तरह से हाउ दे हैव अडेप्टेड टू अ कंप्लीटली डिफरेंट रियलिटी। All of us are taught, right, that autism में changes बहुत मुश्किल होते हैं, people need a certain routine, it is very difficult for them to change their routine, etc etc। ये सारा जो conventional wisdom होता है autism के बारे में, I think the pandemic has forced us to look at it again and to really, I must say, I feel so humbled when I see the way our young people with disabilities have actually handled the entire course of the pandemic. So I think probably one of the most law-abiding citizens who always wears his mask, who maintains social distance even in crowded settings, who sanitizes his hands, who is extremely particular about how he conducts himself in public, is my young person with autism. And I feel immensely proud of that. I feel immensely proud of the way he has learned to adapt to situations. I feel immensely proud, if I dare say, I do feel proud of myself for, I think, helping him to, also be able to cope with these changes. And above all, I think the kind of support, the kind of, encouragement, the kind of, stabilizing influences that his network in AFA and the other spaces where he finds his moorings, that has been of great help to him. So once again, I come back to the whole thing of support. What kind of social networks, what kind of support groups are we facilitating for our people with autism and also for our regular siblings? I think it has also been a terribly hard time for our non-disabled children as well, many of whose education has been badly interrupted, many of whose careers have collapsed. In cases like, for instance, my son has been away from home for 3 years. I have not seen him for 3 years. And here you're talking about a family where the three of us used to be virtually, in each other's face 24/7. And now there is a situation where I have not seen my child for 3 years. And WhatsApp and, Facebook are no substitute, I must say. I mean, I think it's a great blessing that one can actually see, use WhatsApp video and, actually speak to the person every day. But the person is not at home and he has spent 3 crucial years away from home, during which the kinds of things that he may have gone through, the various experiences he may have had, have, in a sense, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what kind of a young man is going to come back to me when he does, right? It's during this period also that both Vishu and I in the second wave fell sick with COVID. And once again, it was a revelation. It was a revelation in the sense that the person who had always been seen as a recipient of care, जिसके लिए हमें हमेशा कुछ करना है, इसको संभालना है, इसको केयर करना है, इसको आगे लेके जाना है, वो बच्चा केयर गिवर बन गया। जब मैं बीमार थी, पूरा मेरा केयर उस बच्चे ने लिया, उस लड़के ने, आई वोंट से बच्चे ने, मेरे बच्चे ने, उस यंग एडल्ट ने लिया। गर्म पानी देना, खाना देना, डबल मास्क पहन के मुझसे दूरी रखना, सब कुछ उसने किया। And once again, that is something that really fills me with a great deal of humility and a great deal of respect for the person that he has become. I also understand how difficult it must have been for my older boy to have been so far away, knowing that his mother and his brother are both sick with this disease. Hearing stories of the number of cases taking place in Delhi on a daily basis, seeing the horrendous news of people dying for want of oxygen, in hospitals, how traumatic it must have been for him, being so far away, knowing that even if something happens to my parent, to my mother and my brother, how am I going to get to them? How am I going to come to them? Right? So in a sense, the world that we live in is an extremely precarious place. Precarity तो हमने देखी उन मजदूरों के साथ जो किसी तरह मतलब बड़े शहरों से पैदल अपने अपने घरों तक गए। प्रिकेरिटी वो भी थी, प्रिकेरिटी हर किसी की है। और आई थिंक बीइंग a parent of a neurodivergent person, I think all of us should basically be very, very aware of how privileged we are, even though we may have children who may have developmental and other disabilities, in the sense that जो हम इस रूम में आज बैठे हुए हैं, हमारे पास कितना सब कुछ है जो बहुत लोगों के पास नहीं है. And I think being a parent of a person with disability has made me really aware of the kinds of vulnerabilities, the kinds of precarities, the kinds of differences that exist in the world, and humbled me a lot. Also made me aware कि दुनिया में अगर एक ही तरह के लोग हैं, एक ही तरह की मतलब एक पर्सनहुड है, तो दैट्स अ वेरी डल एंड अ वेरी बोरिंग वर्ल्ड. हम नेचुरल वर्ल्ड में जैसे बायोडाइवर्सिटी की बात करते हैं कि बायोडाइवर्सिटी जरूरी है धरती को हरा भरा रखना, धरती को सेव करना, उसी तरह न्यूरोडाइवर्सिटी भी उतनी ही इंपॉर्टेंट है इस दुनिया को एक इंटरेस्टिंग दुनिया बनाना. लेकिन जो डिफरेंसेस है, उन डिफरेंसेस के कारण हम अलग ना होके एक हो, ये बहुत बहुत जरूरी है. और ये आई थिंक पेरेंट्स ऑफ पर्सन्स विद डिसेबिलिटीज हैव एन एडिशनल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी to accept all kinds of difference. और ये चीज मैंने बखूबी अपने दोनों बच्चों से I think सीखी है. And basically I think how much time have I taken and how much do I have left? I think I can.
We have about 20 minutes, Shubhangi.
20 minutes left or 20? I've taken 20 minutes.
We have 20 minutes left.
Okay, so I think I will, try and wrap up in another 10 minutes so that we can perhaps keep more space or more scope for discussion. Because I think these are things one would really like to talk about and discuss, through a more interactive format rather than,
And more Hindi?
Okay, definitely. I stand suitably corrected. ठीक है? Okay, कुछ चीजें थोड़ा सा मैं मतलब जिनको दोहराना चाहती हूँ, वो ये है कि जब फॉर इंस्टेंस एडोलेसेंस में हम बात करते हैं, वो एक स्टेज है जब न्यूरोटिपिकल और न्यूरोडाइवर्जेंट बच्चों का जो जीवन है, जो जीवन की जो एक रास्ता है, वो बहुत हद तक diverge hota hai. And there are certain things which now that both my children are adults, I am keenly aware of, and I really am in the process of trying to negotiate or trying to understand how we will as a family negotiate these and go ahead. और सबसे बड़ी चीज है letting go. एक लड़का तो निकल गया एक तरह से, वो तो अपनी जिंदगी लीड कर रहा है. अब क्या दूसरा यंग अडल्ट भी हमेशा घर में ही रहेगा, कि क्या उसकी भी एक इंडिपेंडेंट या उसकी भी एक आजाद जिंदगी होगी? वो बहुत चाहता है कि उसकी एक आजाद जिंदगी हो, वो अपने भाई की तरह एक आजाद जिंदगी लीड करे, वो अपने भाई की तरह अपने जो दोस्त है, अपना जो सर्कल है, अपने जो फ्रेंडशिप्स है, उनको वो आगे ले जाए. तो ये उसके अंदर बहुत तीव्र चाह तो है, लेकिन इस चाह को किस तरह से हम रियलाइज करें, ये एक पेरेंट के सामने बहुत बड़ा सवाल है, और उस सवाल के साथ हम डेली जूझते हैं. एक और बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज जो आई थिंक हम सबको रियली सोचनी है कि एज पेरेंट्स ऑफ डेवलपमेंटली डिसेबल्ड चिल्ड्रन, हमारी जो टेंडेंसी टू ओवर प्रोटेक्ट, टू इन्फेंटलाइज, मतलब हरदम उस बच्चे को एक छोटा सा बच्चा है उस नजरिए से देखना, ये एक चीज है जो खैर हिंदुस्तानी पेरेंट्स में तो ये चीज है ही, चाहे तो डिसेबल्ड बच्चा हो या नॉन डिसेबल्ड बच्चा हो. हम तो जो जीवन के सबसे बड़े डिसीजंस होते हैं, करियर और शादी, उसमें हम अपने सो कॉल्ड नॉन डिसेबल्ड बच्चों के लिए भी हम अपने आप को सक्षम समझते हैं कि हम उनके फैसले लें, जो कि बहुत ही मुझे अटपटा लगता है. फॉर इंस्टेंस, जब अगर बच्चा कॉलेज में एडमिशन ले रहा है, मेरे कई फ्रेंड्स को मैंने सुना है, मैंने उसको कॉमर्स दिलाया है. कि आप कौन होते हैं उसको कोई चीज दिलाने के लिए? मैं तो हमेशा कहती हूँ उसने क्या लिया है, न कि आपने उसको क्या दिलाया है, तो ये जो एक टेंडेंसी जो हिंदुस्तानी पेरेंट्स में होती है अपने बच्चों को कंट्रोल करना, ये कंट्रोल डिसेबल्ड बच्चों के साथ तो जाहिर है और भी ज्यादा इंटेंसिफाई हो जाता है. लेकिन जिस परिवेश में हम आज रह रहे हैं, मतलब हमारे परिवार इतने छोटे हो गए, हमारे सपोर्ट स्ट्रक्चर्स नहीं है, ऐसे में क्या कैन वी अफोर्ड दिस, कि डू वी हैव टू थिंक कि हम इनको भी किस तरह से आजाद करें हमसे, अपने आप को आजाद करें उनसे, ये भी एक सोचने की बहुत हमें आवश्यकता है। एंड आई थिंक एज अ पेरेंट जो 2-3 चीजें मैंने बहुत ही कॉन्शियसली करने की कोशिश करी है, वो ये कि हमें भी अपनी जिंदगी जीने का उतना ही हक है। आप पेरेंट हो, आप एक डिसेबल्ड बच्चे की पेरेंट हो, आप एक न्यूरोटिपिकल बच्चे के पेरेंट हो, आप एक सिंगल पेरेंट हो, आप मैरिड हो, व्हाटएवर, आपके भी अपने अरमान है, आपके भी अपने सपने हैं, आपका भी अपना सेल्फहुड है, जो सिर्फ और सिर्फ केयर वर्क में आप अगर समर्पित करें तो आपके लिए आगे जाके भी प्रॉब्लम्स हो जाएंगी। तो हर किसी के पास तो करियर नहीं है, मेरे पास तो कोई चारा नहीं था, ऑल्दो आई लव माय जॉब, आई लव द वर्क आई एम डूइंग, मेरे पास कोई चारा नहीं था, बीइंग अ सिंगल पेरेंट आई हैड टू कंटिन्यू माय वर्क। लेकिन मैं समझती हूँ कि काम या ये जो आउटसाइड वर्क है उसने बहुत हद तक मुझे अपने पे या मेरे अपने जीवन पे एक तरह से कंट्रोल देने में एक बहुत बड़ा और ये बहुत अहम भूमिका अदा कर ली है। तो अपनी जो सेल्फ डेवलपमेंट है, अपना सेल्फ केयर जो है, अपना सर्कल है, अपनी सोशल लाइफ है, राइट? कई माएँ तो they are so bound to the day to day care of the child and of the household, और यहाँ सिर्फ डिसेबल्ड बच्चे का नहीं, पति बीमार है तो भी आप ही केयर गिवर हो, घर में कोई बुजुर्ग है आप ही केयर गिवर हो, आपके पेरेंट्स एजिंग है आप ही केयर गिवर हो। तो ये जो एक बर्डन, जेंडर्ड बर्डन जो पड़ता है औरतों पर केयरिंग का, इसको मैं समझती हूँ बहुत जरूरी है इस चीज को थोड़ा चेंज करना। तो जो हमारे घर में जो the men in the house also need to step up, also need to share the caregiving work, also need to care for their own parents, need to care for our parents, need to care for their children, need to care for themselves, need to care for us. I think this is something I hope that as a parent or as a mother and as a single mother, I hope I have been able to imbibe this spirit in both my boys, that they need to be prepared, they need to be ready, they need to be well trained to care, they need to be ready to take on responsibilities of caring as much as any of the women in their lives. So I think that is something which it's very, very important, and I cannot emphasize that enough. I would also like to say a bit, I mean, it would be very, it would be remiss on my part not to really, thank my co-workers, my organization, the institution where I work, the Indira Gandhi National Open University. I've been very lucky that I'm in the teaching profession, and I'm also very, very lucky कि जो मेरे साथ जो मेरे सहकर्मी हैं, मेरे colleagues हैं, इन्होंने हमेशा बहुत ज़्यादा मुझे support दिया है, बहुत ज़्यादा moral support दिया है। जब भी मुझे किसी चीज की जरूरत थी या किसी चीज की मतलब I needed any kind of assistance, they have been there. They have been extremely understanding, they have been extremely helpful, and I think once again एक जो बार-बार मैं दोहरा रही हूँ जिस बात को, we have to be upfront, we have to be very, very clear that we don't need to hide our children's disability. This tendency to hide, this tendency to obfuscate, इसी की वजह से हमें बहुत अधिक आगे जाके तकलीफ होती है। Just a minute. Is my network okay? I sort of saw myself freezing for a minute. Is it all right? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, okay. Everything just froze for a second. So I think it's very important, like I said, to be upfront about our children's disabilities, our children's needs, so that people around us may be able to help us, may be able to understand us, and may be able to cooperate with us. And here I think the role of advocacy, which I've been hinting at throughout the course of the talk, is absolutely of the essence. And I think as parents, obviously we have to advocate for our children, and we have to also create an environment where everyone in the family advocates. Hopefully, I think, I've sort of inculcated the spirit of advocacy in my older son also. And of course, there have been many very, very funny incidents, of his advocacy, the way he, as a 5-year-old, he's explained to people of 45 what autism is in his own, very interesting way. And people have gotten back to me and said, oh, we never understood what autism was until Vibhu explained it to us. It must have been about 7 or 8, so from the mouth of babes, as they say. So he's done that, and he's done that magnificently. And I'm really very, very proud of that. So I think that as advocates, advocacy on behalf, the entire family has to advocate for the person with special needs. If we want acceptance, if we want society around us to also really appreciate, to understand, and to welcome our children in their midst. And I think I think I'll just wrap up just a few concluding, observations. I mentioned that the family is a very, very dynamic structure, is something that is always changing, always in flux. I think today the dynamic that exists in my family is that my 2 sons, who are citizens of the 21st century, right? They are the ones who understand how to navigate an airport. They are the ones who understand how to navigate technology. I'm the one who seems to be left behind in another century, and they actually are guiding me. तो जब हम कभी भी अगर हम साथ एयरपोर्ट गए, मुझे समझ में नहीं आता, मैं जाती हूँ और वहां खड़ी हो जाती हूँ, तो एक बैग लेके जा रहा है, एक चेक इन कर रहा है, दूसरा कुछ कर रहा है, you have to hand over. ये एक जो बहुत ही नेचुरल चीज होती है हर परिवार में, कि जो ओल्डर जनरेशन है वो हैंड ओवर करता है यंगर जनरेशन को. अब मेरी भी बारी आ गई है कि मैं बहुत सारी जिम्मेदारियां, बहुत सारी चीजें हैंड ओवर कर रही हूँ. अब आप लोग संभालिए. याद रखिए, सिबलिंग्स जो सिबलिंग है, वही सबसे ज्यादा अपनी जिंदगी साथ में गुजारते हैं. A sibling spends more time अपने सिबलिंग के साथ, more than the parents, more than your spouses. The person who is with you for the longest period in your life is your brother or sister. And I think that is something, it is such a thought, आप सोचिए इसके बारे में कि आप एक व्यक्ति के साथ 60, 70, 80 साल रह रहे हैं, चाहे आप साथ में नहीं रह रहे, लेकिन दुनिया में तो आप हो. तो I think this is something which is a really amazing thought, कि जो आपका सिबलिंग है वही है जो जिंदगी भर आपका साथ देगा. और एज अ पेरेंट हमारा जो रोल है वो उस सिबलिंग बॉन्ड को न कि एक ऑब्लिगेशंस वाला बॉन्ड बनाना, या फिर एक तकलीफ वाला बॉन्ड बनाना, या फिर एक ऐसा बॉन्ड बनाना कि एक बोझ सा हम अपने न्यूरोटिपिकल सिबलिंग पे डाल रहे हैं कि आपको संभालना है, आपको केयर करना है, आपको माँ या बाप का मतलब की जगह लेनी है. Rather than this, I think जो एक फ्रेंडशिप, एक existence in the world, that we are together in this world, we come from the same place, we have shared memories. हमारे जाने के बाद उन memories को कौन unlock करेगा? It is the sibling. जो धरोहर है आपके memories की, आपके पूरे जिंदगी की, वो siblings अपने अंदर समा के रखते हैं. तो इस चीज को, इस incredible bond को बना के रखना, उसको एक to give it the full scope to flower, I think that is the only role of parents. बाकी आगे जाके जिंदगी में क्या होगा, किस तरह से वो संभालेंगे, किस तरह से वो निभाएंगे, कौन कहाँ जाएगा, कौन कैसे रहेगा, that is not our problem, that is not my problem. But my work has been, I think, to give them or try to give them certain values, and I hope I've done it. I hope I'm successful. And I think the burden of wanting things to be controlled, wanting things to unfold in a particular way, which we take upon ourselves, I think that is also something that we need to learn to let go. So letting go, I think, is a very, very important lesson that parents need to learn. I'm definitely not saying that I have learned it. Parenting is always an unfinished business. There is no, formula for parenting. There is no, time frame for parenting. You are a parent as long as you have children. Those children may be 2 years old or they may be 80 years old. But you will be a parent, and there will be issues that keep coming up. There will be different kinds of dynamisms that, dynamic situations that keep cropping up. So I think parenting is basically an unfinished business. Parenting is a business that is all about learning new things all the time. So with that, I'd just like to, share a few photographs, if I may, of my family. Would Action for Autism please share the...
Can everyone see the screen?
So this is 2001, where they were 6 and 4. And I think what really always strikes me about this photo is Bade Bhaiya has been very protective of his little brother right from the beginning. So there's always that protective hand on the head. And I think the naughtiness is also there for all to see. Next slide. This is us in 2005. Once again, the hand firmly had, this was the stage when Vishu was a runner. So if either of us had let go of our grip, he would have probably been a kilometer away. So he was there fastened tightly just enough for the photo to be clicked. Next. They're growing a little taller, they're growing a little bigger. Vishu is still not interested. Vibhu is very self-conscious, as young men of that age usually are. Next. The naughtiness is here for all to see. Little horns have been made at the back of my head. Once again, the runner has to be firmly clasped before he takes off. Next. A movie. This is when they are a little older. I think the runner doesn't have, the runner is no longer a runner. Next. Next, please. A family trip to Ladakh. Next. Next, please. Family trip to Sikkim. And a great day for all of us. We all cast our vote in the Delhi elections. So this was a sort of a red letter day when all three of us, as citizens of our country, went and voted at the same polling booth. Right. That's it. So thank you very much, all of you, for a patient hearing. And if I hand over to AFA now.
So this Ruchika has raised her hand.
Yeah,
Ruchika?
am I audible? Am I audible,
Yes.
Shubhangi ma'am?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Thank you. First of all, thank you so much, Shubhangi ma'am. And I've met you a couple of times before. I've met Vishu also before. And I always remember one sentence you said to me in first meeting, that you are not alone, Ruchika. You're not alone. You're not alone into this. And don't be disheartened. And whenever I feel disheartened, I keep that sentence in my mind. So that's why it was very important for me to attend today's webinar also. And the important thing that you said in this session is the lady of the house, she feels herself constantly pressurized because of the so much responsibility she has, apart from dealing with a child with special needs, because she is the one who is
Go ahead, Ruchita.
I think there was some problem in my phone. She is the one who is supposed to look after the child, look after the husband, look after the entire family, attend the family functions along with the child, and even take care of herself, which she doesn't get time in between. So there is very little awareness, because we have such a patriarchal society in India that simply it's your destiny because you have a child like that. So whenever I hear sentences like that, I meet some people, and now they come to know that she has a child with autism, and she has to go for therapy. She has to be 24/7 with him, and she is also unwell. She has to take care of herself also. So I can see kind of a pitiful sympathy in their eyes, which I really hated at that time, because it really demoralizes me to see that if I've not carried the child alone, he's a part of a full family. We both are raising him, and we both are trying our level best, to make him independent. You can't even imagine what challenging it is to have a child like this and carry on also with our day-to-day life. Every day is a new challenge, and every day we try to motivate ourselves. We try to pat ourselves alone that it's okay, other day will be better, other day will be fine. So how to deal with that? Because it really at the beginning, because it's just the beginning of our journey. The child is just young, he's just 8 right now. So it is really difficult to get your mind free of all these thoughts. And even when I used to take a break on a Saturday, or go for a movie for myself, or go to shopping, it always hammers my mind that, the child is alone with the father. Is he able to manage him? Has he eaten something? Maybe he's cranky and all. So you were saying that you need time for yourself also. But when I need time for myself and I get time for myself, still that thing is hammering in my mind, because the people around me have already put in so much things in my mind that, it's your duty to take care of the child. It's your duty to keep him safe, keep him healthy. So it's your destiny, it's your life. You can't do anything about that. How to deal with it? I mean, what is the way in which mothers like us can feel more positive and get free of all these ridiculous patriarchal thinkings that people have in their mind? Because we can't change people, but at least we can change ourselves.
Well, Ruchika, you've answered your own question. I mean, the fact that you are saying that these are ridiculous patriarchal notions, which are so, so yesterday and so very condescending to women, तो आपको तो solution मिल ही गया है. तो naturally we feel, demoralized. But I think we have to just overcome that. I mean, just disregard it. जो आप सुनते हो वो सिर्फ इसलिए नहीं कि उनके बच्चे को ऑटिज्म है. ये हर माँ सुनती है. अगर माँ वर्किंग है तो आपने बच्चों को निग्लेक्ट किया. अगर माँ घर में है तो बच्चों को ठीक से देख नहीं रही है. It is always the woman's fault in a patriarchal setup. So I think we just need to acknowledge that much of what we hear, it is very, very difficult, of course, to keep ourselves insulated from it. हम भी तो समाज का हिस्सा ही है. हम जिस तरह से बड़े हुए हैं, हमारी जिस तरह से परवरिश हुई है, कहीं ना कहीं हमारे अंदर ये चीज घोंट घोंट के डाली गई है कि ये औरत का काम है, राइट? ये औरत की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, ये औरत की ही रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है. लेकिन हमें इस चीज को तोड़ना है आज नहीं तो कल, और अगर हम नहीं तोड़ेंगे तो कौन तोड़ेगा? तो आई थिंक एक जो ऑटिस्टिक बच्चे का हमारी जिंदगी में होना, एक तरह से इट इज ऑल्सो देयर टू हेल्प अस लिबरेट आवरसेल्व्स फ्रॉम मेनी पेट्रियार्कल नोशंस. सो थैंक यू सो मच. और जो आपने बात बोली थी कि यू आर नॉट अलोन, ये बात मैंने 20 साल पहले, 25 साल पहले सुनी थी एक और माँ से, जिसने मुझे बहुत ताकत दी थी. And I'm so glad that, somewhere this has also built your self-confidence. Thank you so much.
There is another question from Pia Jain. Are you there, Pia? You can ask your question.
Can you come in?
Ji.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, Pooja Jain. Sorry.
Yeah, actually, I'm joining for the first time. And yeah, ma'am, my question is not about the mothers or anybody. My question is like how to encourage the confidence of the child. Because my son, how to encourage the confidence of a child, who is on the spectrum, because he is 6, he just turned 6, and he falls mildly on spectrum. So he's in a regular school, and he is actually going to regular school, regular tuition, regular swimming, regular skating. Like he's dealing with the regular children, like the normal children, like who don't have that much of a sensitivity, like as adults, like they have. So like yesterday, like how I shared in the swimming pool, he met a child and he just asked him, why you're not intelligent, why you're so dumb? And he asked me, Auntie, why your kid is so dumb? And I said, he's not dumb, he's just differently intelligent. it's not that he doesn't understand. My son doesn't understand. So I know he understands all these questions and all these remarks. So, how to prepare them, like how to prepare our kids for, these kind of remarks. And, that is there that we keep telling him, you're the best, we love you, you're the brave child, you're the strongest. Every day we give him that. But I don't know, because he's exposed to the world from morning 8 to evening 6. So I don't know what kind of psychological impact. So how did you train your child for that? That was my question, ma'am.
So that's actually a very it's a great question. Firstly, it's great that your child is going to an inclusive setup and interacting, and that schools are now taking children with autism and other special needs and taking them as regular students, which is of course a great improvement on the way things were maybe 2 decades ago. And as to how you should prepare your child, I think basically, children face bullying, children who, all children generally face bullying. So I think sensitizing the teacher, making the teacher aware that maybe your child is being bullied, this is very, very important. Also, perhaps, if there is a child who's teasing him in front of you, talking in a very positive way to that child. So there are a number of strategies that you can use in which you can help not just your child, but also people around him. For instance, the teacher, other parents, and other children, to understand that everyone is different, right?
Yes,
and I think, and look at the advantage that your child being in a class like that is going to give to the other children. Normally, we always say ना कि बच्चे को अगर हम दूसरे बच्चों के साथ so-called normal बच्चों के साथ बिठाएंगे तो वो बच्चे को फायदा होगा. लेकिन हम ये नहीं सोचते हैं कि उन so-called normal बच्चों को कितना फायदा होगा हमारे बच्चों के साथ इंटरैक्ट करके और उनके साथ संपर्क करके.
Mom, till now he was in a prep school for 4 years. He made great friends.
Wonderful.
No birthday party is there without him. Everybody used to call all his friends, ma'am, please send him, auntie, please send him for a birthday party. So now he's gone to a new school, this session, standard 1. So this school is new, the friends are new. So I'm little worried. That's the only thing. Right?
Don't let your worry rub off on him. So just congratulations for the efforts that you're taking. It's great to hear that. Yeah.
Next question we have.
There are lots of
from
questions in the
Rashmi
chat box
Handa.
actually.
Yeah. We have next question from Rashmi Handa. Rashmi.
Hello, Shubhangi.
Hi.
How old is your son?
Which one?
The neurodivergent.
He's 25.
What have you thought of his future?
I
Will
have
he be able to stay without you?
That's him.
This
Hi.
is my
Hi.
laptop. Yeah, you're using my laptop.
I'm using your laptop. That's right. So yeah, I must firstly acknowledge the big thanks to Vishu for preparing the photographs and for also lending me his laptop because mine just, crashed and broke into a million pieces. So thank you, Vishu. So I go on record. Yeah. So your question, Rashmi, I really haven't thought about it. What I'm trying my best to do is prepare him to be as independent as possible. And he's only 25 now. There's a long road ahead. So let's see where life takes us. मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाती चली जाऊंगी.
Will he be able to stay without you?
I hope so. I hope so.
Alone.
He'll have to, won't he?
Alone?
I don't know. Let's see.
Okay, because my son is 46 and I'm worried.
It's a very legitimate worry. I completely understand.
Yeah.
But, I think we have to see, ultimately, they are going to have to live in this world without us. There's no two ways about it, So हम या तो हम कोई इंतजाम करें या फिर उनको,
Exactly. Yeah, that is there.
So that's it.
But may I say something?
Yeah, please.
Vishu is very smart. You have a lovely son.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay, we have another question from Lavanya. Lavanya, please.
Shubhangi ma'am, hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much for a lovely session.
Thank you.
Kind of opened my eyes to a lot of things. And the thing is, Lavanya is my daughter.
Okay.
And my name is Radha.
Hi.
So Lavanya has been going to AFA for a long time, since she was 3 years old. And that time there were many challenges when she was very young, and I was also, living in a joint family with my parents. So she didn't have her dad at that time close to her. So it was very difficult also to able to understand Lavanya's autism at that time. And even though she was going to AFA, and now what is happening is the setup is a lot more different, because I'm living alone with her as a single parent who is bringing her up. With my family support, definitely yes, but they all are living separately. There's no question as such, but I just want to share this with you and the others that I'm getting much more time to understand my child better now, with with no one around. And I'm not saying that everybody should do that, but I definitely feel that, the house has only me and her, and I get the time, I get the space, she gets the time, she gets the space, and we understand each other much better. And right now that I'm attending this session, I have not imagined that she was sitting in the other room and watching TV without, I just thought that, it would be difficult to attend a session, but thanks to her also, that she's understood that, mom has to attend a meeting and it's okay. So she's kept herself busy there. So this has happened over the years working with my child, and all thanks to AFA, that AFA has given us such lovely, things to think about, work upon. And I do feel that Lavanya is blossoming much more now in this kind of a setup. Even though going to school was a little different, because there you're working with teachers hands-on, and it's much more different. And now here at home, you're attending online classes and working with your mom and so also. So it's a lot more different. It's difficult, but then she is kind of catching up, doing really well also. So all thanks to her that, she has accepted this kind of system, that, okay, it's okay to sit in front of a camera and, do her studies. It's all right, So there are many changes that Lavanya has undergone, and I'm really happy that she has accepted it. And I have also got the chance to understand her much better in this kind of a setup, in this kind of an environment, and have a dialogue with her, which was not possible earlier. I was not able to communicate with her so freely earlier. But now it's like it's so much easy now to talk to her, to tell her, to even understand what she wants to say or what she wants. So I really feel this is working good for both of us. And I hope this is how it goes, continues, that I'm able to sort of, work with her and make her more independent, and be more communicative also. So that is all I wanted to share. And thank you so much for a lovely session. It's just, helped me to understand a lot more better how, I can, as a parent, understand my child a lot more than what it is now.
Thank you so much, Lavanya.
Thank you very
Best
much.
wishes to you and to your daughter. Yeah.
Thank you.
Quickly, we will take a question from Ratnakar and Mishika Bish. Because since we are...
Hello everyone.
Yeah.
Myself Ratnakar,
Ji.
father of Sarthak and Moog, is a student of AFA. I'd like to share one of my decision, whether it is correct or not, let you know, or the who are listening the question. जैसा कि सार्थक ऑटिस्टिक है, जैसा मैम ने बताया, अभी 2 भाई हैं, छोटा को प्रॉब्लम है, बड़ा ठीक है. हमारे यहाँ उल्टा है, बड़ा को प्रॉब्लम है, छोटा को
He's got muted.
ज्यादा वो कोऑपरेट करता था केयरिंग, जैसे सपोज करो कुछ हमें जाना है, कुछ मार्केट समर्थ थोड़ा सा ध्यान रखना, अभी आ रहा हूँ मैं सार्थक को लिए, कुछ काम थे, तो वो मतलब हमारे एक्सपेक्टेशन से बियॉन्ड उसको सपोर्ट करता था। कुछ कुछ ऐसे जो अर्जेंट आ गया उसको भी वो सब रिजॉल्व करता था, केयरिंग करता था। तो अगर कभी जैसा आपने बताया कि विशु विशु भाग जाता था तो बड़ा भागता था उसके पीछे, सेम इज अ रनर, हमेशा भागने में लगा रहता है, उसके पीछे लगा रहता है, वो करता रहता है। फिर हमने नोटिस किया कि धीरे धीरे वो थोड़ा सा एनवाइड होना शुरू कर दिया है इसके साथ, सार्थक के साथ, कि यार जैसे मैं खेलने नहीं जा पाता हूँ मुझे, क्योंकि ये भागता है हमेशा, हम गेट बंद करके रखते हैं, उसके फ्रेंड्स आते हैं, कई बार वो गेट खुला छोड़ जाए तो ये भाग जाए, तो हमेशा उनको देखना पड़ता है। तो हम लोग कभी बोलते हैं बेटा ऐसा नहीं करना है, ये गेट बंद करके रखो, चाहे फ्रेंड आए तो आप बाहर चल जाओ, गेट बंद कर दो, सो दैट ये कहीं मतलब कुछ मिस हैपनिंग ना हो जाए। तो इस तरह से अब धीरे धीरे वो क्या हो गया, थोड़ा सा रूड होने लगा, यार इसके वजह से मैं खेल नहीं पा रहा हूँ, मैं दोस्तों को बुला नहीं पाता हूँ घर, मैं कहीं जा नहीं पाता हूँ, इंडिपेंडेंट नहीं हो महसूस कर रहा था। और साथ ही साथ उसके पढ़ाई में भी इम्पैक्ट पड़ता था, चाहो ना चाहो ऐसा होता था कि हमारे जैसे कुछ काम है तो बेटा थोड़ा ध्यान रखना, बीइंग अ फैमिली ये हो जाता है कि मम्मा खाना बना रही है, क्योंकि ये हमेशा इधर उधर करता रहता है डिस्टर्ब, तो वो मम्मी बोले कि बेटा थोड़ा सा पकड़ना, मैं थोड़ा खाना बना लूं, तुम दोनों खा लेना, तो पढ़ाई को ड्रॉप करके फिर अपना इसको ध्यान देने लगता था। अभी क्या हुआ, वो धीरे धीरे पढ़ाई से भी वो मैं देखता था कि उसका रुझान कम होने लगा, और ये एक एक सपोर्ट सिस्टम ढूंढने लगा, यार सार्थक, मैं सार्थक को संभाल रहा हूँ, मैं ये पढ़ाई नहीं किया, सार्थक की वजह से नहीं पढ़ाई किया, मतलब एक सपोर्ट, मतलब एक एक कवच की तरह इस्तेमाल करने लगा कि भाई ये मेरा ढाल हो गया, इसके वजह से मैं ये नहीं कर पा रहा हूँ। इवन मैंने नोटिस किया, स्कूल में जाता था तो स्कूल में भी कई बार होमवर्क नहीं किया, तो कुछ कई बार हम पेरेंट, जैसे आपने बताया ना, हमेशा हम 3 साथ ही जाते थे, कहीं भी जाना है तो चारों साथ जाते थे, क्योंकि मैं ड्राइव करूंगा, वो अकेले जा नहीं सकता है, वो छोटा है, मैं उसको छोड़ नहीं सकता हूँ, तो हम चारों ही जाते थे। तो पीटीएम में भी जाते थे तो टीचर भी ऑब्वियसली देख के समझ जाती थी कुछ स्पेशल चाइल्ड है, तो वो उसको फिर उसी हिसाब से थोड़ा सा ट्रीट करने लगती थी। एक दो मैम तो बताई कि हाँ हाँ ठीक है, बहुत अच्छा ध्यान रखता है भाई का। हमने भी बताया कि जैसा मैं आपको शेयर कर रहा हूँ कि अपने भाई का बहुत अच्छा से ध्यान रखता था वो। तो अभी क्या हुआ कि उनको वहाँ स्कूल में भी ढाल की तरह इस्तेमाल करने लगा, कभी कुछ हुआ तो मैम सार्थक ऐसा कर दिया, तो वो क्या हुआ, वो पढ़ाई में वो एक्सक्यूज ढूंढने लगा इसको लेकर कि भाई ये एक्सक्यूज हो गया इसके लिए कि सार्थक की वजह से ये नहीं हो रहा, सार्थक की वजह मैं पढ़ नहीं रहा हूँ, सार्थक को टीवी दिखा रहा हूँ, सार्थक को मैं ये करा रहा हूँ। इवन मैं अभी नोटिस करता था कई बार उसकी मम्मी बिजी होती थी तो वो क्लास करा देता था, अब उस क्लास के प्रिपरेशन के लिए कम से कम 2 घंटा 2.5 घंटा वो उसके लिए क्राफ्ट बनाना, ये बनाना, वो बनाना, सब में लगा रहता था। अब फुल्ली पैशन से कि भाई मेरे को करना है ये, अपना काम डिस्टर्ब हो जाए तो हो जाए, लेकिन सार्थक के लिए काम करना है मेरे को। अब धीरे धीरे क्या हुआ, अपना पढ़ाई डिस्टर्ब होने लगा, तो हमने एज ए पेरेंट हमने ऑब्जर्व किया, ठीक है ये बड़ा को तो प्रॉब्लम है, कल दिन ये फ्यूचर में अगर ये सक्सेस नहीं हो, ये बोलेगा कि ये बड़ा भाई की वजह से मैं नहीं कर पाया, क्योंकि मैं तो इस पे फोकस करता रहा। बीइंग अ पेरेंट मैंने सोचा नहीं, इसको थोड़ा ना कहीं हमें लाइन अप करना पड़ेगा, पढ़ाई वढ़ाई तो उस हिसाब से कर नहीं पा रहा है, तो हमने ऐसे ही उसको बोला कि हमने बीच में प्लान भी किया, चलो इसको हॉस्टल छोड़ते हैं ताकि वो कहीं अपना पढ़ाई पे तो फोकस करे, आखिरकार लाइफ तो आगे चलना है, उनको भी सक्सेस करना है लाइफ में। तो हमने ऐसा डिसीजन सोच ही रहे थे, फिर बीच में हम कहीं अपने उनके एक रिलेशन में उनके मौसी के पास गए, तो वहाँ उनको खुला माहौल मिला, वो फैमिली बच्चे उनके साथ में।
Hi, Mr. Ratnakar. Sorry to interrupt you. We are just taking one question at a time, and due to limited, time with us and the speaker, can we please be, Hanji, can we please be quick and ask?
सॉरी फॉर दैट, मैं क्वेश्चन पे आ गया। हमने ये डिसीजन लिया, वो वहाँ पे बहुत खुश रहने लगा और वो हमें फोर्स करने लगा कि पापा मैं यहीं रहना चाहता हूँ। तो हमने काफी सोच के देखा कि यार यहाँ पे डिस्टर्ब हो रहा है, तो हमने ठीक है वहाँ पे हमने उसको एडमिशन करा दिया उसी स्कूल में जहाँ उनके बच्चे पढ़ते हैं, और अब वो अब यहाँ आना नहीं चाहता है, वो कटना चाहता है। तो पता नहीं, मुझे लगता है कहीं वो जो आपने बताया ना बॉन्डिंग, दो भाई ब्रदरहुड का बॉन्डिंग जो लाइफ टाइम चलने वाला है, सबसे लॉन्ग टाइम चलने वाला है, कहीं वो कहीं मिस तो नहीं कर जाएगा। अब मुझे ऐसा महसूस होने लगा है कि कहीं वो जेल जो होता है जितने भाई के साथ होना चाहिए, कहीं वो इमोशंस कम ना जाए, क्योंकि ऑल द वे वो साथ में ज्यादा टाइम रहेंगे। मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है।
तो अब इसका जवाब देना, मैंने जो आपकी बात सुनते सुनते ना, मुझे बस एक चीज जो मैं बार बार सोचती हूँ हमारे न्यूरोटिपिकल बच्चों के बारे में, देयर इज सच एन एब्सेंस ऑफ सोशल सपोर्ट फॉर सिबलिंग्स। ये एक बहुत बड़ी खामी है कि सिबलिंग सपोर्ट ग्रुप, सिबलिंग काउंसलिंग, यूजुअली क्या होता है कि बच्चा डायग्नोज होता है तो मोस्टली उसी के ऊपर ध्यान ज्यादा दिया जाता है, या तो फिर मैक्सिमम पेरेंट्स। लेकिन सिबलिंग्स किस तरह से कोप करते हैं, सिबलिंग्स के ऊपर क्या प्रेशर्स आते हैं, ये भी एक बहुत ही ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट सवाल है। जो आपके जो सारे इश्यूज जो आपने हमारे साथ शेयर करे, थैंक यू फॉर दैट, उससे साफ पता चल रहा है। अब कोई आपको आंसर देना इज नॉट पॉसिबल, क्योंकि आपकी जो फैमिली की सिचुएशन है, आपकी जो परिस्थितियां, आपसे बेहतर आपके बच्चों को कोई नहीं जानता है। तो आई थिंक वही है ना कि हमें कभी कभी और ये बहुत ही स्वाभाविक चीज है कि हम जो टिपिकली डेवलपिंग बच्चा है, जो न्यूरोटिपिकल बच्चा है, उसके ऊपर हम ऑटोमेटिकली ऑलमोस्ट कि हाँ भाई जरा संभालो, हाँ थोड़ा ध्यान रखना, ये करना हर किसी फैमिली में होता है। तो इसमें आप आई थिंक जो भी रेजोल्यूशन है, दैट इज समथिंग दैट यू एज अ फैमिली विल हैव टू सिट एंड वर्क आउट। एंड आई थिंक family counseling also, getting support, counseling for your son where he can actually talk, वो share कर सकता है जो भी अपने issues है, जो भी अपनी बातें हैं वो share कर सकता है, वो बहुत जरूरी है। I think a lot of people who are actually working with families will agree with me, and I think feel the same way. So wishing you luck and wishing your family all the very best for whatever path you take ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Ma'am, may I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
Ma'am, मेरा बेटा है 5.5 year autistic, mild autism and non-verbal, और बेटी है neurotypical 3 year 4 month की जी। तो मैम अभी जैसे सब कुछ खुल गया, सब कुछ आना जाना शुरू हो गया है, तो अभी जैसे मैं मतलब अभी जैसे नवरात्रे चल रहे थे, बेटी को लेके मतलब मोहल्ले में बुलाया तो मैं गई। अभी तक तो हम लोग सब कहीं नहीं गए थे, तो अब जैसे कोई पूछता है बेटी को कहाँ डाला, फिर पूछता है अच्छा बेटा क्या कर रहा है, तो आई एम वेरी ओपन, मैं डायरेक्टली बोल देती हूँ कि थोड़ा उसका स्पीच नहीं आई अभी तक, थोड़ा सा डिफिकल्टी है। तो ये मतलब मेरा क्वेश्चन डायरेक्टली बोलती हूँ मैं क्योंकि टाइम कम है, ये है कि इज इट ओके टू बी ओपन? कई बार घर आके लगता है कि यार मतलब ऐसा इतना बताना चाहिए था, वो इस तरह से ना सोचे। मतलब मुझे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है क्योंकि मुझे फेस करना है, क्योंकि मैं जहां 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 उसको लेके जाती हूँ, जिन जिन लोगों से हमको इसको इन्वॉल्व करती हूँ, क्योंकि वो बीच में घुसता है तो थोड़ा सा हर कोई वो फील करता है, तो मैं डायरेक्टली बता देती हूँ ही हैज सम डिफिकल्टी। बट अब जैसे आस पड़ोस के लोग जिस सब मिलते हैं पूछते हैं, तो कई बार लगता है कि यार ऐसा तो नहीं बताना चाहिए था, ना बताती तो ठीक था। हालांकि कहीं ना कहीं अंदर से मुझे पता है कि नहीं बताना तो पड़ेगा ही। बट मेरा एक आपसे पूछना ये है, क्योंकि आप तो इतने सीनियर हो, कि अगर कोई पूछता है तो हमें डायरेक्टली ये बता देना चाहिए या किस तरीके से हम उनको आंसर करें? जी।
So that's very मेरा तो इमीडिएट रिस्पॉन्स होगा कि बता दो, इसमें क्या है, इसमें क्या छिपाने की बात है। लेकिन आपको भी अपनी सिचुएशन को देखना है, आपको अपने दूसरे बच्चे की सिचुएशन को भी देखना है। तो मेनी ऑफ दीज थिंग्स, देखिए यू नो दैट देयर इज अ डिफिकल्टी, और एक अच्छे तरह से समझाना कि देखिए उसको दिक्कत है, बिकॉज इफ यू जस्ट से दैट द पर्सन हैज ऑटिज्म, मेनी पीपल मे नॉट अंडरस्टैंड यू, right? So जो for instance the way I think many of us as you call senior parents, हम कहीं जाते हैं, अब हर किसी को आप बैठ के ऑटिज्म के कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स क्या है, ऑटिज्म क्या है, कैसे होता है, ये तो आप बताओगे नहीं। तो if you just say that he is different, he has a few issues, उसको थोड़ी सी मतलब but always put it very positively and never be apologetic about it. So ये मेरे कहने का मतलब है कि अगर आपके बच्चे को कोई डिफिकल्टी है, तो इट इज उस बच्चे का तो कोई दोष नहीं है, आपको एनवायरनमेंट जो है उसके लिए वो सुलभ बनाना है। तो आपको मेरे हिसाब से दिस शुड बी आवर एटीट्यूड एज पेरेंट्स, कि किस तरह से मेरे बच्चे के लिए एनवायरनमेंट सुलभ हो जाए या इजी हो जाए। आई होप दैट आंसर्स योर क्वेश्चन।
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Shubhangi.
Yeah.
We will take one more last question.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah. Please,
Yeah.
Pankaj.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Yeah, ma'am, मेरी daughter है, like she is just 3 years old, and 2.5 years में इसका हमने diagnosis कराया था, इसका speech नहीं आया अभी तक। तो like हमने दिखाया हॉस्पिटल्स में, तो उन्होंने ऑटिज्म में बोला है इसको। तो मैम मेरा एक ये क्वेश्चन है कि लाइक अभी ये स्कूल की एज हो गई है 3 इयर्स की, तो यहाँ पे इंडिया में लाइक स्पेशली आई एम लिविंग इन न्यू दिल्ली, तो लाइक हम स्कूल्स वगैरह में गए तो कोई एडमिशन के लिए मतलब रेडी नहीं होता, एंड आई हैव एन अपॉर्चुनिटी टू ट्रैवल टू यूएस, लाइक मेरे पास लाइक वीजा है, लाइक वी आर प्लानिंग टू मूव देयर, but we are still confused whether like resources are better in India or whether we have this opportunity to move to the United States. तो वहाँ पे like autism बहुत है बच्चों को, resources भी ज़्यादा है, तो क्या decision better रहेगा, मतलब हम बहुत थोड़े confused हैं इस issue को लेके। तो like I have asked my friends and relatives who are staying in US, they are saying कि you should definitely move there, you have better resources, like schools में acceptance है वहाँ पे ऐसे बच्चों का। थोड़ा सा मुझे ये सजेशन चाहिए था मैम आपसे, अगर if you can help me in that decision.
So once again, Pankaj, we have just met in a webinar. So आपकी जो situation है, आपके जो issues है, आपके जो concerns है, it's very difficult for a person to I think if you are in touch with Action for Autism, I think it'd be great if you actually met the counselors over there, or took a decision with taking some expert opinions also. So मतलब इस तरह से किसी चीज, it would be very irresponsible of me to just suggest कि आप रहो या आप जाओ without knowing what is your circumstances, what is your real conditions. So I think it's it's very important for you to take a very informed decision in this regard.
Okay, thanks ma'am. Thanks.
Okay, we can take one more question from Aiza.
हाँ मैम, मेरा क्वेश्चन, हाँ यस मैम, मुझे सिर्फ ये मेरी भी 3 इयर्स की बेटी है, उसको माइल्ड ऑटिज्म बोला है डॉक्टर ने, 17 मंथ में उसको डिटेक्ट हुआ था, बट वो स्पीच वो खुद के लिए सब कुछ बोलती है लेकिन कम्युनिकेट नहीं कर पाती। जैसे कि हम उसको कुछ बोलेंगे, आयजा ये लाओ, आयजा ये दो, तो वो ये नहीं करती है, बट ऐसा उसको सब समझता है कि उसको क्या करना है। तो कभी कभी मुझे ये समझ में ऐसा लगता है कि उससे सब आता है, कभी कभी मुझे ऐसा लगता है उसे कुछ नहीं आता है। तो मतलब मेरा ये क्वेश्चन है कि बच्चों का ये ऑटिज्म एक जो चीज है कि वो बड़े होकर जा सकता है या क्या?
I think maybe Nidhi might want to answer this question.
Sorry, could you repeat the question again? I'm so sorry.
हाँ, it's okay.
I think she was asking if her daughter who's got उसको कभी-कभी उनको लगता है कि उसको सब कुछ समझ में आता है, कभी-कभी उनको लगता है कि वो नहीं, उसको कुछ समझ में आता है।
सही कहा।
तो वो ये जानना चाहती है कि वो बड़ी होके क्या ये जाएगी ये चीज?
हाँ, मतलब ऑटिज्म चीज बच्चों में क्या लाइफ टाइम रहती है? मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि या फिर हम कुछ या फिर वो आहिस्ता आहिस्ता जा भी सकता है।
ऑटिज्म तो हमेशा ही, मतलब ऑटिज्म है तो हम, इट्स अ लिटिल बिट लाइक अगर हम लड़की हैं तो हम लड़की बन के आए तो हम लड़की रहेंगे। It's exactly like that. Autism है, autism is here, our lifetime. It's a condition, right?
Okay.
Autism है, पर इसका मतलब जैसे शुभांगी ने बताया कि जैसे विशु पहले भागते थे, फिर उसके बाद उन्होंने अपने आप डिसाइड किया कि हम नहीं भागेंगे, वैसे ही हम सब with a lot of हमारे environment के साथ, जिस तरीके का environment, जिस तरीके का हम support अपने बच्चों को देंगे, exactly on the same ways they will learn and progress like every child. चाहे वो ऑटिज्म हो या नहीं हो, हर बच्चा सीखता है, बड़ा होता है, एंड एग्जैक्टली वैसे ही रहता है।
ओके मैम, ठीक है, बस वही मुझे पूछना था। थैंक यू।
Thank you. Moving on to further, we'll take another question from someone from Redmi Note.
हेलो शिवांगी मैम, मेरी आवाज?
हाँ बिल्कुल सुनाई दे रही है, बोलिए।
एक्चुअली मैम मेरा बेटा माइल्ड ऑटिस्टिक है और स्पीच तो है उसमें लेकिन लैंग्वेज नहीं है, और बेटी 6 इयर्स के। तो मुझे ये पूछना था मैम, उसको हॉस्टल में रखना ठीक रहेगा कि नहीं?
अब वंस अगेन देखिए, आपकी जो स्थिति है, आपकी जो परिस्थिति है, आपके जो मतलब रिक्वायरमेंट्स है, उसमें एक वेबिनार पे मेरा आपको कुछ कहना ये ठीक नहीं होगा। आपकी परिस्थिति बहुत अच्छे से पहचानने के मतलब विदाउट दैट, है ना। तो मैं तो आई think that you should, I mean I think there are a lot of facilities available आजकल। तो पहले तो ये था कि कुछ भी नहीं अवेलेबल था ऑटिज्म के लिए, कुछ भी मतलब सुविधाएं नहीं थी, कुछ भी सर्विसेज नहीं थी। तो आप अपने जरूरतों के हिसाब से और अपने मतलब परिस्थितियों के हिसाब से आपको खुद डिसाइड करना है, क्योंकि मैं तो हमेशा समझती हूँ कि माँ बाप से बेहतर अपने बच्चे को कोई नहीं जानता है। तो जो माँ बाप जो डिसाइड करते हैं अपने बच्चों के लिए, वो डिसीजन इट इज समथिंग, क्योंकि आप बहुत अच्छी तरह से अपने बच्चे को जानते हो, आप अपनी परिस्थिति क्या है उसको पहचानते हो, उस मुताबिक आप फैसला ले सकते हैं।
मैम मुझे लगता है कहीं मैं उसको अपने से दूर नहीं कर रही हूँ, तो मैं उसके साथ गलत तो नहीं कर रही हूँ।
वंस अगेन इसका जवाब देना एक वेबिनार के माध्यम से ना तो बहुत ही मुश्किल है।
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Moving on to further, we have someone from Galaxy A10.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Hema. So I have a son. He's of 17 years. Ma'am, वो मतलब सबके साथ बहुत he's mild autistic. सबके साथ बहुत ठीक रहता है। अभी 1-1.5 साल से ये हो रहा है कि he has started hitting me a lot. अभी I don't know, पता नहीं क्या हो रहा है मैम। एक वो बोलता है कि मुझे एक आईफोन चाहिए, फिर बोलता है कि मुझे यहाँ पे नहीं रहना, इस घर में मेरे साथ हम दोनों अलग रहेंगे, ऐसे बातें करता है। आप अभी और उसको ना एकदम फिट सा कुछ आता है, चलते चलते आप ले रहे हो कि नहीं मेरे लिए फोन, आप ले, एंड देन ही स्टार्ट्स हिटिंग मी। सो ये दो चीजें आ रही हैं, वो पता नहीं क्यों, ही इज जस्ट डूइंग इट विद मी, पता नहीं क्यों कर रहा है ऐसे। ये बहुत ज्यादा एक कंसर्न है मैम।
No, I completely understand आपके concerns, मैं समझ सकती हूँ। I think once again इसका कोई over the webinar एक आंसर देना, जब तक आप मतलब हेल्प ले लीजिए, आप किसी काउंसलर से बात कीजिए, आप उसको जहाँ दिखा रहे हैं वहां पे डिस्कस कीजिए कि कई बार एडोलेसेंस में भी कुछ इश्यूज आ जाते हैं। जैसे बच्चा बड़ा हो रहा है, उसकी भी जरूरतें हैं, उसकी भी फिजिकल चेंजेस है, हार्मोनल चेंजेस है, उसकी वजह से भी ये हम नॉन ऑटिस्टिक बच्चों में भी देखते हैं, जो बच्चे इन देयर टीन्स दे बिकम देयर इज दैट हार्मोनल चेंज, और वो एक एग्रेसिविटी भी आ जाती है। तो इसके लिए तो इसके लिए मेरे हिसाब से तो आप काउंसलर से बात करिए, या जहाँ पे भी आप उसको दिखा रहे हैं उसको, so that he may get counseling, so that even you will get counseling कि किस तरह से इन issues के साथ डील करना है। तो इसके लिए जो एक्सपर्ट ओपिनियन है, चाइल्ड एंड एडोलेसेंट साइकोलॉजिस्ट या चाइल्ड एंड एडोलेसेंट साइकाइट्रिस्ट से बात करना बहुत जरूरी है। और ये इश्यूज मेरे ख्याल से मोस्ट पेरेंट्स फेस करते हैं जब बच्चा थोड़ा बड़ा होने लगता है। ये बहुत सारा मतलब हम लोगों ने भी बहुत फेस किया है। तो आई थिंक यू टेक द एक्सपर्ट ओपिनियन, जो क्लिनिकल ओपिनियन है वो लेके फिर उसके बाद किस तरह से मतलब उसको क्या किन चीजों की जरूरत है, किस तरह से इस बिहेवियर को ये किया जा सकता है, एड्रेस किया जा सकता है, वो दैट कैन बी। बट आप यू रिमेन आप मतलब आप अपने लिए भी हेल्प सीख कर लीजिए, क्योंकि ये सिर्फ मतलब आप निराश मत हो जाइए, क्योंकि ये फेजेस होते हैं जिनको हैंडल करना उचित समय पे उचित हैंडलिंग बहुत जरूरी होती है। And thank you for asking the question.
Moving on further to someone from Nat has a question. Can we come in and have your question, please?
Yes, hi. Good evening. I enjoyed your talk very much.
Thank you.
I have 3 kids on the spectrum, 3 boys.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty much the response I get every time. So like you were talking about support for neurotypical siblings, I think I won't have that thing because they're all, on the spectrum. And obviously they're very different in their own ways. And my eldest is 8. So we were just having a discussion on the parent group that I am on. I'm in Goa right now. Yeah. So we were addressing disclosure and how to go about it. And some parents on the group have disclosed, condition, the condition to their child. But normally all the kids are really small. So I think some are waiting till they have a little idea of what's, going on before they address the whole disclosure thing. But I just wanted to know, how did you go about it? Roughly what age Or
So disclosure to whom? To
to the child.
to the child. So in Vishu's case, there was never really a problem because he was going to Action for Autism anyway, right? So he was going to a special needs center, and I think the great thing is that over there, you know, they were one of the things I have to say about AFA is that the kind of respect and the kind of you know, a rights-based approach that is there. Probably the organization is, you know, has been years ahead of its time. So Joe parents, the parents who send their kids to you know, to AFA have also kind of, you know, imbibed many of these values. And disclosure actually comes about in my son's case because he was going to the center and he'd ask me a couple of times, am I going to the center because I'm autistic? And I'd say, yes, you are going there because you're autistic. And being autistic is absolutely fine. It's absolutely okay. It's a way of being. So he's very confident and, you know, comfortable with his identity as a person with autism. And that's really, I think, a great thing, because disclosure is such an important issue and such a difficult issue, you know, in many cases. But touch wood, you know, in his case, it has been very natural. It has been very, very organic in that sense. So I've been pretty lucky.
Shubhangi, if I may add, I think over the years, we've seen Vishu become such a strong advocate about autism now, which is absolutely a fabulous development too. He talks about autism and he talks about advocacy in autism now. That's fabulous too.
That's the next, you know, I mean, because up till now, what has been happening with autism has been basically parental advocacy. And I think now we have reached a stage where, you know, autism, the autism movement in India is now gaining enough traction for self-advocacy to, you know, really take off maybe in the coming years. And once that happens, then we parents can take a back seat, as has happened in the West, for example, where, you know, autistic, you know, self-advocates, वो ज़्यादा अपने हकों के लिए, अपनी ज़रूरतों के लिए, अपने मतलब अधिकारों के लिए वो advocacy करते हैं, ना कि सिर्फ parents. पहले तो ये होता था कि mostly parents करते थे. अब parents को बोला जाता है कि आप back seat ले लीजिए, आपको हमारे बारे में बात करने का कोई अधिकार नहीं है. अब यहाँ तक वो स्थिति पहुंच गई है कि आप अब back seat ले लीजिए और ये हम अपनी advocacy खुद कर लेंगे. तो सेल्फ एडवोकेसी का समय अब आ चुका है. कई बहुत ही, you know, मतलब बहुत ही जबरदस्त सेल्फ एडवोकेट्स हैं सेक्टर में, और हम वही आशा कर सकते हैं कि जैसे जैसे एजुकेशन में, एम्प्लॉयमेंट में मोर एंड मोर पीपल विद ऑटिज्म आर बिगिनिंग टू मेक एन अपीयरेंस, और जिस तरह से मतलब सपोर्ट नेटवर्क्स वगैरह बढ़ रहे हैं, ऑटिज्म अब लॉ में आ गया है. ये बहुत बड़ी बात है कि अब वो हमारे कानून में आ गया है. जो राइट्स फॉर पर्सन्स विद डिसेबिलिटीज एक्ट 2016 में ऑटिज्म एक सेपरेट डिसेबिलिटी के तौर पर रिकॉग्नाइज किया गया है. तो अब ये है कि स्कूलों में, कॉलेजेस में, वर्क प्लेसेस में, सब जगह पर्सन्स विद ऑटिज्म की जो विजिबिलिटी है वो बढ़ जाएगी, और जैसे उनकी विजिबिलिटी बढ़ जाएगी, उनकी अपनी जो गुहार है अपने अधिकारों के लिए वो भी बढ़ जाएगी. तो दैट इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग.
In fact, on that note, I just want to say that in the next coming weeks, we are going to meet बहुत सारे advocates themselves. So we'll be sure to share information. आज हमने विशु और विभु के बारे में सुना, but very soon we are hosting an interview with both of them in the coming weeks. So we'll keep you posted. We also have webinars by self-advocates, some mental health professionals who identify themselves as autistic, some parents who identify themselves as autistic. So that will be something we will hear the autistic voices also in the coming months, coming weeks. So just
fabulous. Really looking forward to that.
So thank you, Dr. Shubhangi, for inspiring us and encouraging all of us with this such a great session on raising them up, a parenting experience on and off the spectrum. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to have you all again in our upcoming webinar of the month. Thank you so much, Shubhangi, and everyone. Have a great weekend. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to all who joined. It was lovely meeting you all. बहुत अच्छा लगा आप सबसे मिलके.